It started on a rainy Tuesday evening, the kind of night where the world outside felt wrapped in mist and quiet. Michael and I were sitting together in our small living room, the soft hum of the radiator filling the silence, eating leftover pasta straight from the pot because neither of us had the energy to dirty more dishes. He was flipping lazily through a travel magazine, not really reading, just letting his eyes wander from one glossy picture to another. Then he stopped mid-page turn, his gaze fixed on a photo that filled the spread, the northern lights in all their surreal beauty, streaks of green and purple swirling above a frozen landscape. His voice dropped when he spoke, almost as though he was talking to himself. "I've always wanted to see them in person." I glanced over, pulling the blanket tighter around me. "They're beautiful," I said, looking at the printed photograph. "They don't even compare to the real thing," he replied quietly. There was something in his tone that made me look at him more closely, not just casual interest, but a dream he'd been carrying for years. "One day, I'm going to watch them for myself." He didn't look at me when he said it, but the sincerity in his voice stayed with me. Over the next few years, it came up from time to time. He never pressed, never made it a demand. It was simply there, like a gentle thread woven through his thoughts, a wish he carried close to his heart. Then, one cold December morning, I was browsing online for something completely unrelated, a winter coat, when an advertisement caught my eye. It was for a small lodge in a remote Norwegian town, offering 3 nights under the aurora at a price that seemed almost too good to be true. I clicked without hesitation, scrolling through photographs that looked like they had been plucked straight from a dream. Snow-covered cabins, crystal-clear skies filled with stars, and the shimmering dance of the aurora borealis captured in stunning detail. I could almost hear Michael's voice in my head, saying again, "One day, I'm going to watch them." Without overthinking, I booked it. When the confirmation email arrived, I didn't tell him right away. Instead, I printed it out, folded it neatly, and placed it inside a plain white envelope. On the front, in simple handwriting, I wrote, "Pack warm clothes. We're going to find your lights." On Christmas morning, I waited until all the other presents had been unwrapped before handing it to him. He opened it slowly, reading the words on the page with a furrowed brow. Then realization dawned, and his face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in years. "We're going?" he asked, his voice caught between disbelief and hope. "We're going," I confirmed. "Next month." For a moment, he just stared at me, smiling so wide I thought his cheeks might hurt. You planned this?" There was gratitude in his voice, and something else too, that deep joy that comes when someone sees the dream you've kept hidden and decides to make it real. 2 weeks later, we stepped off a small propeller plane onto the icy runway of a remote Norwegian airport. The cold hit us immediately, sharp and bracing, filling my lungs with air so pure it almost stung. The town was a short drive away, a scattering of brightly painted houses, their windows glowing with golden light, smoke curling from chimneys into the pale winter sky. We checked into a small wooden lodge owned by an elderly woman named Ingrid, who greeted us as if we were old friends. "If the sky stays clear," she said knowingly, "you'll see them tonight." That evening, we bundled ourselves in layer after layer, sweaters, coats, scarves, gloves, until we felt almost twice our size. A local guide named Anders met us outside with a smile and led us beyond the last street lamp, where the snow stretched out endlessly, glittering in the moonlight. The crunch of our boots was the only sound in the vast, still world around us. The cold settled into my bones, but it wasn't unpleasant. It felt like we had stepped into a place untouched by time. Anders brought us to a wide clearing surrounded by tall pine trees. "Best view in the area," he said. "Now we wait." We spread a thick blanket over the snow and sat together, passing a small flask of hot chocolate I had tucked into my bag. The stars above were impossibly bright, scattered across the dark sky like handfuls of diamonds. For a long time, we simply sat in silence, our breath rising in soft clouds. An hour passed. My toes had gone numb, despite the thick socks, but I didn't care. Michael's mittened hand found mine, squeezing gently. "Even if we don't see them," he murmured, "this is already perfect." I looked at him then, the moonlight catching the edges of his face, and I smiled. "We'll see them," I said, though I wasn't entirely sure. "I can feel it." It was almost as if the universe had been listening, because moments later, a faint green glow began to gather on the horizon. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but then it grew brighter, stretching upward in slow, rippling waves. Michael inhaled sharply. The green deepened, twisting and folding, joined by faint streaks of purple that shimmered and shifted like silk drifting on an invisible wind.
We didn't speak.
Words felt too small for what was unfolding above us. The lights moved in a rhythm older than anything we could comprehend, a silent dance that seemed to exist just for us in that moment. I turned my head slightly, not to take my eyes from the sky, but to see Michael's face illuminated in the glow. His eyes were wide, his expression pure wonder. Time blurred. Minutes could have been hours, or the other way around. The world beyond that clearing ceased to exist. It was just us, the snow, and the sky. Eventually, the colors began to fade, retreating slowly back into the darkness, leaving only the memory of their beauty behind. Anders quietly reminded us it was time to head back before the cold became dangerous. As we walked, Michael was silent, but not in a way that worried me. I could feel the weight of the experience in the way he held my hand, squeezing it every so often as if to reassure himself it had really happened. The snow crunched under our boots, the pine branches swayed gently in the wind, and far above, the stars continued to glitter, untouched by what had just passed. Back at the lodge, we lingered outside for a few moments before going in, our breath visible in the frigid air. Michael tilted his head back to look at the sky, and I knew he was searching for any lingering hint of green. There was none, but the smile that touched his lips told me he didn't need it anymore. Later, under the heavy quilts, he turned to me and whispered, "I'll never forget that. Not just the lights, you made it happen." I told him the truth, that I had wanted to see them too, but more than that, I had wanted to see him see them. That was the part one would never forget, the look on his face when the sky came alive. 5 years have passed since that night. Life has shifted in countless ways. New jobs, new responsibilities, the slow rhythm of everyday routines. But sometimes on quiet evenings, Michael will step outside onto our porch and stare at the stars. I don't have to ask what he's thinking. I'll join him, and without speaking, we'll remember the snow beneath our boots, the crisp air in our lungs, and the night the sky itself seemed to lean close and whisper a gift just for us. And in those moments, I'm reminded why I said yes to his dream, because it had become mine too. He longed to watch, and so did I.